You're listening to Slutty Society, a podcast exploring sex, sexuality, and all things in between.
Hey, yo, man, you really don't have to be out here like this broadcasting all your fucking porno shit.
Hey loves, what's up? I'm your host, Sheila J, and I am here to explore sex, sexuality, and all things in between. This is my first episode of 2024.
Happy New Year!
Thank you for being here to listen. I hope you're doing well. I hope the first month of the new year was good for you. 2024 has started off being, a little all over the place for me. Good, chaotic, some changes, all of the shit. And where do I begin? Let's see. Well, a major change for me is that I made the decision that I'm done with alcohol. I'm not doing any kind of challenge or anything like that, but I've decided for me personally, I'd like to live the remainder of my life without it. I wouldn't say something significant has occurred. There wasn't a major incident. I actually started taking long periods of breaks away from it since 2020. I would decide to take breaks from drinking for months, and then I'd end up coming back to it, then taking a break again. And every time I came back to it, I enjoyed it less and less. Then one day I just decided it didn't serve me anymore, and I'll explain why here in a second. But I think many people, because of how society views alcohol consumption, assume there are only two different levels of drinkers, right? People who can either handle their alcohol that might, drink occasionally, or people that are straight up full-blown alcoholics, which isn't the case. There's a wide spectrum. And when someone stops drinking, people assume, oh, this person had to have been a full-blown alcoholic. But for me, over the last few years, when I did drink, it would make me feel weird, almost as if my body was rejecting it. Even just one drink would do this to me. And over the last year, when I drank, I would start to feel anxious, almost like my mind was also telling me this no longer serves me. My main drinks were wine and champagne. Hard liquor started to be too much for me, especially this last year. I started limiting it. And I feel like I was drinking out of habit. Oh, I'm at brunch, let me have a mimosa, or I had a rough day at work, let me pour a glass of wine, right? And, I've shared that I've been going to therapy since 2020, putting in a lot of self-work, working on my past traumas, just trying to grow into the ideal person I'd like to be. And I have come to realize that drinking alcohol isn't a part of my personal journey anymore. I really want to dedicate even more to my mental and physical health, and I purposely started researching the effects of alcohol, just really looking into how it affects your brain, how it changes the way you think, how your body works. It affects your cells, your heart. It's a group 1 carcinogen for cancer and so many other bad things. And it's very eye-opening when you really start to dig into the details. It also feels kind of fucked up because of how it's marketed to us, right? Drink to celebrate, drink for stress, drink for fun, have a glass of wine when you've had a bad day, etc. A fucking drink solves it all, right? And any amount of alcohol, no matter where you sit on that drinking spectrum, affects you. You don't have to be a heavy drinker to experience the effects, which is what we're usually taught, right? So I think the combination of starting to learn more about the effects, feeling like my body and mind had been rejecting the alcohol, and noticing different little signs from the universe that this isn't for me anymore, is why I'd like to live the remainder of my life without it. You know, I'm definitely making an effort to zone in on these different signs from the universe, all of the things I'm noticing now, not just related to drinking, but paying attention to many things my mind is now open to because of the work I've been doing on myself. And the work is fucking hard. It hasn't been easy by any means. You know, it's a continuous process, and I feel really great about putting alcohol in my past. Okay, so other shit this year has brought, I feel like that part was a lot, but I mentioned a minute ago this year started off chaotic as well. So, about 2 weeks ago, we had some horrific weather here in Portland. The situation was stressful to say the least, and I was out of power for about 6 days. The thing about Portland is it doesn't usually have bad winters or a lot of snow or even super low temperatures that, I'm accustomed to from being from the Midwest. But I'm here to tell you global warming is fucking real. I've been here about 8 years and have never experienced what recently happened. The typical winters here are rainy, chilly sometimes, but not super cold. And a couple of weeks ago, we were hit with a wind slash snowstorm, followed up by an ice storm a couple of days into that, and the temperatures dropped to record lows. I lost power on day one. Let me tell you about this shit. I got up early in the morning, per usual, came downstairs into my office, opened my curtains, opened my blinds, and the trees were swaying like crazy. The wind was so loud, and they had predicted it might snow, that we were going to get some bad weather, but I don't think anyone imagined it would be like this. So after looking out the window in my office, I go into my kitchen, make myself a cup of coffee with my coffee machine, and no lie, as soon as my cup of coffee was finished, the power went out. I started to hear these loud thumps coming from my dining area, one after another, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? So, in this part of my home, I have a huge window that is a two-floor window. So, it starts from the bottom of my first floor, goes up through the second floor, and you can see my patio from this window. And there are literally branches and pieces of trees falling onto my patio. That's what the loud sounds were. And I'm like, shit, please don't let one of these trees fall over on my home, right? Additionally, I'm right next to a hiking trail, so there are hell of trees, huge trees, and they are moving in a way that scared the shit out of me. To make things worse, I ended up losing cell phone service during these 6 days. The cell phone towers went out. I couldn't get calls out. I couldn't get text messages. It was fucking crazy. And I also could not get my car out of the driveway or up the driveway. It would slide back down. Portland has a lot of hills, especially in the area I am in, and the city doesn't plan for this kind of weather because it's rare. So there aren't a vast amount of snow plows, tow trucks. They don't salt the roads or really do anything to them. If you venture out in this weather, it's kind of like the wild, wild west, and you're taking your own risk. It can be very dangerous. Now, the day before the storm, I had bought a refrigerator and a freezer full of groceries, anticipating the bad weather, but never did I think my power was going to go out. So I had to throw all of that food away. And my daughter and I spent these 6 days eating from my pantry. So shit like granola bars, tortilla chips, peanut butters, muffins. I think one day I ate a plain can of tuna, but mostly snack food. My daughter's shit. I typically don't eat a lot of processed food, so my stomach was fucked up. And I had two fruit baskets on my kitchen counter. I always keep apples, bananas, avocado, oranges stocked in them. But on the second day of this weather, my house had gotten so cold that I went to get a banana and bit into it, and it was fucking frozen. Um, I remember at one point my daughter was talking to me and I could see the condensation from her breath. And I'm like, oh, fuck. We were bundled up, we were layered, two pairs of pants on, multiple shirts, under sweatshirts, under jackets, under robes, hats, gloves, throw blankets, comforters. It was freezing. So, a few days into this, we were supposed to get the ice storm. And the sun was out a little bit that day. And I'm like, we have to walk and see if something's open. I still couldn't get my car out. I obviously couldn't call anywhere because the cell phone towers were still down. And there's a Starbucks and a Trader Joe's down the street from me. So we walk in the snow, in the cold. Thankfully, Starbucks was open. They were going to be open for just a couple of hours, closing early because of the ice storm. So we posted in Starbucks for a little bit. There were hella people in there just charging their phones, charging their devices, using the Wi-Fi, trying to get warm. A lot of people had lost power. I realized there was an Ace Hardware next to Starbucks, and I saw people, going in and out of there. So I'm like, okay, Ace Hardware's open. I have a fireplace in my home. Now, I've never used it. It's more for decor, but I'm like, I have to do something. My house is fucking freezing. So I watched a couple of YouTube videos while we were in Starbucks on how to use a fireplace, and then we walked to Ace Hardware. I bought a box of wood and all of the tools for the fireplace, and I had to carry all of that shit in the snow, in the cold, walking back to my house. I went to some kind of strong mental place. I channeled my incredible hawk and carried both of those boxes, the box of wood, the box of tools for the fireplace, in my arms all the way home. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. It wasn't an option not to because I had to get us warm somehow. And the fireplace made such a difference. We posted up in the living room for the remainder of the time. I don't even know how my house would have felt without that fire once that ice storm came. But during these days, I felt like we were in some kind of apocalypse minus the zombies, which probably would have made things more interesting. But seriously, though, that experience dealing with no power, no cell phone service, being stuck in my freezing house, not being able to drive anywhere, having minimal food, it was a humbling experience. We take a lot of shit for granted for sure. Happy to have made it through. I feel very blessed. But moving on to happier times, I spent some time in LA for the holidays. I'm not a traditional holiday person. As the years go by, as I get older, I like to try to find new ways to enjoy the holidays, especially if I'm off of work. But I definitely had a good time, tried some new restaurants, which is something I love to do. Spent Christmas at Universal Studios Hollywood, which was beyond fun. And I just tried to do different things in different areas I hadn't spent a lot of time in on past trips to LA. There's a lot to do, a lot to see and experience outside of typical tourist shit. But man, I feel like so much has happened since my last episode. Let's see what else. I recently had a new opportunity presented to me at work and I'm excited about it. Working in HR, especially the part of human resources I work in, problem solving, managing a lot of difficult situations. You sometimes become numb to it. Especially if you work in a big organization, you see a lot of shit. Nothing surprises me in the workplace anymore. So, a lot of times I forget all that I do. And when my work ethic is recognized, it kind of snaps me back into reality, pulls me out of that sort of desensitized place. Sometimes I don't give myself enough flowers, enough kudos. I think we can all do a better job at celebrating ourselves. We're kind of programmed to do the opposite. But celebrating myself is something I plan to do more of this year, amongst other things. And I'm just hoping for continued growth to learn new shit, to push myself further out of my comfort zone as well. Now, I also started off my new year by seeing my gynecologist, just a normal routine checkup. The appointment went well. All of the testing was fine. The vagina is good. The cookie is fresh, definitely warm and ready for someone to take it like a snack, please. It's still been a minute since I've had sex outside of my vibrator. I really want to do some more dating this year. I want to meet some new people. I mentioned before I am not a fan of dating apps. So, really just getting out there, doing different shit, and encountering people in person. But I feel like I haven't felt that type of energy with anyone as of yet that makes my pussy throb. There are no alarms going off in my vagina. I really want to feel an attraction to someone mentally, even if it's just sex. Intelligence turns me on, and not always, but a lot of the time, I feel like I'm losing brain cells when I'm having conversations with people, which makes me think about a conversation I had with a friend not too long ago. I was talking about me dating, and this friend mentioned I might be a sapiosexual. That's basically when a person is attracted to intelligence and they're also aroused by intelligence. I did look up, the signs of a sapiosexual, which are things like wanting to engage in stimulating conversations, being attracted to people who can effectively express themselves clearly, valuing the mind over the body, and so on. So I definitely could be one for sure, but I'm also a person that is somewhat disconnected to what's going on with celebrities or what's going on with the world of social media, which seems to be what a lot of people, again, not all, but definitely a lot, it seems to be all they want to talk about. So they want to talk about celebrity gossip or they want to talk about some shit online. So, one, I feel like in society now, because of social media, a lot of people have these weird parasocial relationships with celebrities or other people online. What I mean by that is there are a lot of people who have these one sided relationships with celebrities. They expect shit from them, act like they know them, act like they owe them something, and are very emotionally invested with these celebrities or these people online who are unaware of their existence. And a lot of people internalize things when it comes to celebrities that they don't really know, and also do a lot of projecting within these parasocial relationships. I just find myself personally uninterested in a lot of conversations about celebrities because of this. And I'm not a big fan of social media. I only have Instagram, I have a personal page, and I have one that I made for the podcast, but I don't even keep the app on my phone. I will re download it if I want to post something. Honestly, I might keep it on my phone for a day or so, then I re delete it. Our brains aren't built to consume that much information at that fast of a pace. And there's a lot of misinformation given in a space where a lot of people don't use critical thinking skills. Obtaining facts about shit has really gone out of the window because of that constant information overload. People don't stop to take a moment to consider logic online. So it's a place I don't like to put a lot of my energy into. So when I get online to post, if I happen to see a picture one of my friends has posted, I'll like it for sure, but I rarely sit and go through feeds and scroll through shit. So if I am following you, it's not that I don't care about your shit online or what you have going on your social media. I'm just not actively looking at shit. And to be clear, none of this is to say I think I'm better or above anyone who is online every day, because anyone can be sucked into that constant consumption, including myself. Social media is built in a way to make you hooked, to make you addicted, which is why I don't keep the Instagram app on my phone. I do just enough random activity so people know, hey, I'm still alive, but because I am so disconnected from that world, a lot of times I'll try to get to know people. I'll go on dates and they'll talk about shit I have no clue about since I'm not online like that. And sometimes it feels like I'm in the Matrix, like I'm fucking Neo.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
I just see the world beyond all of that shit. And sometimes people look at me like I'm the crazy one because I'm not invested in celebrity news or because I'm not invested in social media. I just want to have really great sex, a lot of consistent sex. But I need the mental connection to align with the physical connection. Maybe that's too much to ask for. Sometimes it feels like it is, but I know for me, I need to have great sex. I am at a point in my life where I don't want a chance having bad sex just because I'm horny, and I am horny as fuck these days. Okay, all right, loves. Let me get into this episode. It's going to be a mixture of things. I have some topics I'll discuss, some random sex related stories in the media I've been saving to share. I also want to get into the remaining listener feedback I have from the end of last year. Okay, so I often get suggestions from people who listen to the podcast about topics they want to hear my thoughts on. I actually have an ongoing list that I keep when people send me suggestions. And with the new year just starting, I thought for this episode, I'll discuss the top 5 topic suggestions I received the most in 2023. I received these multiple times from different listeners. The first one on my list is oral sex. I know I've touched on this in previous episodes, but I've been asked to talk specifically about giving oral sex to women. People ask me what is the right way to do it. So I'll start off by saying something you've probably heard me say before if you've listened to other episodes. Everyone's body is different. The right way to eat one pussy might not be the right way to eat another. So, step 1 when eating pussy, treat every vagina like it's an individual. You need to learn how that particular kitty operates, what makes it wet, what feels good to it, and so on. She might be sensitive down there like me, or she might like more pressure. So I always suggest starting off slow and soft to fill things out. I would say pace yourself, take your time, don't lick so fast. When you first start off, it's important to pay attention to her body. Is she pulling away, or is she pushing your face in it, or is she rubbing her clit against your lips or your tongue? All of those things are good indications if you should apply more or less pressure, or if you're doing something that doesn't feel good. And listen to her when she says, right there. Don't ignore that. And pay attention when she directs you to do something while you're down there. I've had my own experiences where I've tried to point something out or point someone in the right direction and they deliberately ignore me. Now, I mentioned before how I personally feel about having my clit sucked. I don't really like it. It's too much for me. But if you're going to try to do that to someone, don't go full force and suck it like you're a fucking vacuum. Again, start off with less pressure and work your way up to more if needed. When it comes to what to do with your tongue, what to do with your lips, I don't believe that there's only one technique to get the job done since different things feel good to different people. But something I like to do when giving a woman oral sex is to lick her clit while I'm using my lips to do like a kissing motion as I'm licking. So I'm licking her clit and essentially my lips are touching around her clit. Then from time to time, I'll kiss on it for a second or I'll lick it for a second and then back to my little kissing and licking combination. The right balance with that is going to depend on the person receiving. Again, you have to pay attention to her body. What else? Oh yeah, swallow your fucking spit. There's no reason to drown her vagina with your saliva. This isn't like sucking a dick. While you're down there using your mouth, just swallow your spit, please. The only wetness that should be happening is the juices coming from her pussy. And in all honesty, you should be using that to make the experience better, which leads me to say, open your eyes while you're down there. Don't be scared to look at it. And if you're using your mouth and your tongue correctly, you should be able to see the wetness forming. Don't be scared to taste it. Don't be scared to put some on your tongue and rub it on her clit with your tongue or, even do so with your fingers. I personally like fingers inside of me when I'm getting my pussy ate, like right when I'm about to come, but always ask because, again, everyone likes different shit. All right, number 2 on my list of most suggested topics for 2023 is anal sex. You love it, you hate it, or you don't like things in your ass. For me, anal sex isn't something I do on a regular basis. It's kind of like an every now and then situation. That's my personal preference. For me, anal needs to be at the right time. If I decide, I think I'm going to do anal today, I'm not eating for hours and hours beforehand, if you get what I'm saying. I'll share with you a quick story one of my friends told me. Now, I won't say his name. I know he listens, and I really hope he doesn't get mad at me for saying this, but he told me one time he was having anal sex with an ex of his, and she was actually on top of him, reverse cowgirl, when they were doing anal. And at some point, he goes to pull out. What's the nicest way for me to put this? He goes to pull out and he ends up covered in her waist. Look, I tried to be as nice about that as possible. Use your imagination. As my 8th grade sex ed teacher once said, the anus is an exit, not an entrance.
Wait, what?
She really said that shit. On a serious note, though, there are a lot of helpful tips available if anal is something you're interested in. I think it's definitely one of the more taboo sex acts. There are a lot of misconceptions about it, but if you're prepared and it's done right, it actually can be pleasurable. I think there's a misconception that anal only feels good to men, let's say in a non-heterosexual relationship, or in a heterosexual relationship if you're a couple that's into pegging, like when the man is being pegged by the woman. But it is possible for anal to feel good to a woman. It just has to be done right and with care. Okay, number 3. I've been asked a lot about sex for hire. I would say I do believe that sex work is real work, and I don't mean situations where people are forced into it through sex trafficking or anything like that. But if someone makes an individual adult decision that this is what they want to do, I'm not the kind of person that would judge them for that or shame them for that decision. I think the sex industry is a very powerful industry, a very lucrative industry all around the world. Sex for hire will always exist. It holds deep roots in many societies. You can look far back into history and always find it. Unfortunately, we live in a society where there are a lot of stigmas about it. The criminalization of it plays into the stigmas as well. Um, Side note, this topic actually has me thinking about a guy's trip I went on to Vegas a couple of years ago. I was seeing someone at the time who invited me on a trip with him and his friends. I was the only woman on the trip, but one of the guys with us paid for escort services at least 3 times that I know of while we were in Vegas. We were only there for, I think, 2 days, but obviously it's pretty accessible there. It's like using fucking DoorDash, and this is no judgment on him. It randomly popped into my head because I'm talking about the topic, but sex for hire is a lot more common than I think a lot of people want to believe, or I guess choose to believe. All right, I think I'm at number 4. Let's see. Okay, people want to know my thoughts on sex dolls and sex robots.
They're advanced. They look just like women. They don't gain weight because they don't eat bagels and shit. They're supposedly perfect, which is fine. Let them come. But my problem with them is every time there's some kind of sex advancement for men, there's always this tone of like, women better watch out. Y'all better get y'all shit together. You gonna get replaced. Men ain't gonna need you no more. And I'm like, when? Like, hurry up. Like, go. Go fuck the robots. Like, leave us alone. When is gonna happen? Stop threatening me with a good time. Go away. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Go fuck your robot. Like, men are so weird.
This is Janelle James, by the way. She plays the principal on Abbott Elementary, but she has some really good stand-up sets. She's super funny to me.
Men are so weird. I have a dildo, but I don't put a fucking face on it. Like, what's wrong with you?
I love her. I actually have a funny news story that I'll get into later in the episode about a sex doll. I personally do not have any experience with sex dolls or sex robots. If that's your thing, cool, no shame. I know those motherfuckers can definitely get expensive depending on how detailed you make it. I want to say I saw one online for like $6,000 or more, which is pretty wild. Now, there were some cheaper ones I saw that ran around $300 to $500. I'm guessing those don't get wet and their mouths don't move. They're probably like a budget-friendly version. You might have to, put in a little more work with them, give some more effort on your end. I did find some other interesting facts about sex dolls from bedbible.com. It's a site dedicated to sex and sex toys. So they are saying during the outbreak of COVID-19, sex doll sales shot up about 75%, making 2020 a record sex doll sales year with $2.86 billion worth of sex dolls sold. Since then, about $3 billion worth of sex dolls are sold annually. About 13.6 million American men own and have used a sex doll at one point, and 8.6 million women also own and have used sex dolls. Look, I'm just going to tell you, dolls creep me out. Chucky, Annabelle, Megan. I watch way too many scary movies. And to own a life-sized, lifelike doll at that, it won't be me. I don't trust it, let alone when I fuck it. Okay, this is the last one, a topic that actually has been suggested to me the most. It is cuckolding. I don't think people realize there are 2 different definitions for this. There's a traditional, original one, and what many people now talk about, the fetish version. So originally, a cuckold was a term created to describe a man whose wife is having an affair with another man. So it was a man who was being cheated on. I believe you can even find this in Shakespeare plays, But what we know today is the fetish version of the term. It involves a person getting turned on by observing their partner having sex with someone else. It's a very popular porn category. I personally know quite a few people who are into this that have either done it or they want to try it. I did find an article with tips on introducing this into your relationship. I won't read the entire article, but high level, it just talks about being open with your partner, letting them know that this is something you want to try, and explain to them what it is in case they're unsure. It also talks about openly communicating and setting perimeters and boundaries with everyone involved to make sure everyone's clear on perimeters and boundaries. Now, a part I find interesting about the article is it talks about starting off slow to maybe take smaller steps by having your partner watch you flirt with someone else, either in person or maybe you're texting or sexting with someone else and your partner reads it. But definitely starting off slow when you're first introducing cuckolding before it gets to the physical part. I feel like if I was in a cuckolding scenario, I would want to be the observer. I want to be the one to watch. Just let me post up in the corner. Like I can have some popcorn, just like relax, chilling. Let me take my bra off and just like watch you guys fuck. That would be ideal for me. All right. So I came across this article which shared the most Googled sex questions of 2023. And to be honest, this article didn't list one that I expected to be on here. They're all unexpected questions. There are 10 of them. So, number one is, what is the speed bump sex position? So, I guess there was a guy, a contestant on a reality show called Love Island, and he shared on an episode that his favorite sex position is the speed bump sex position. I'm going to take an educated guess that it went viral since it is the number one Googled sex question from last year. And I've never heard of it until now, but I looked it up and it's similar to doggy style, except the woman lies face down with a pillow under her hips to raise her pelvis. I guess I didn't realize that position has a specific name, but sure, the speed bump sex position. All right, number two is, can you have sex while pregnant? The answer to that is abso-fucking-lutely. Number three, what is sex positivity? Self-explanatory. Number four, why do I bleed after sex? All right, I think in this case, you should probably consult with your healthcare provider, not ask Google because Google is not a fucking doctor. Number five, how many dates should I go on before having sex? You know, I hate when people think there's a magic science to this. Have sex when you are comfortable having sex. If that's the first date, cool. If it's the fifth date, whatever. It doesn't matter. Number six, how many calories do you burn during sex? I looked this up and you can burn 3 to 4 calories per minute during sex. I love a good sexercise. Number seven, how long after a miscarriage can you have sex? Again, another question that should be directed towards a medical professional, not Google. Number eight, what is anal sex? Pretty self-explanatory for this one as well. Number nine, why do I have no sex drive, female? Again, consult your doctor. And last, number 10, the 10th Googled sex question of 2023. How do fish have sex? I looked this one up too because I'm curious, and it said, when ready for mating, the gonopodium, which is a modified anal fin, becomes erect and points forward towards the female. The male shortly inserts the organ into the sex opening of the female with hook-like adaptations that allow the fish to grip onto the female to ensure impregnation. You learn something new every day, loves. Now you know how fish have sex. All right, I want to go ahead and jump into In the Media.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you some breaking news.
I actually just made that new intro trying to switch it up for the new year. But In the Media is where I find an article, news report, or story related to sex and or sexuality. I want to start off with a story I'd like to refer to as Taco Bell Gone Wild. A work potluck party at San Pedro Taco Bell turned into a boozy bash with sex and vomiting. A company Christmas potluck for employees of a San Pedro Taco Bell turned into a boozy bash with one coworker having sex with his wife in front of spectators and another vomiting in a guacamole bowl. The worker, Alana Beecham, filed a lawsuit in the Los Angeles Superior Court. She's seeking unspecified damages in the suit. The alcohol-fueled party took place on December 18th at a Taco Bell on 1031 Southwest Gaffey Street in San Pedro, where Beecham had worked as a cashier, according to the court records. Workers were encouraged to bring food in a potluck-style buffet, and Beecham had decided to take guacamole to the party. When Beecham walked in, the lawsuit claims she noticed the windows of the restaurant were covered with wrapping paper and the cameras in the Taco Bell lobby were also covered.
I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
Yeah, I would have left. She had been socializing in the parking lot for a while, but when Beecham walked back in, according to court records, she found one of her male coworkers was having sex with his wife in front of everyone at the party. The coworker's wife, the lawsuit states, was bent over and kissing two other coworkers, including a supervisor, simultaneously. Beecham was shocked, disgusted, and outraged by what she saw and ran, according to the suit. But before leaving, the lawsuit states she went back into the Taco Bell to get her guacamole bowl. Instead, she found two of her coworkers vomiting, with one retching into her bowl. Oh, they could have kept that bowl. I wouldn't want that back. Beecham complained to her supervisor about what she saw and about someone vomiting in her bowl, but the supervisor then threatened to fight her, according to the suit. After she reported the incident, 3 of the Taco Bell employees, including the supervisor and the male coworker who had sex with his wife, were fired, the lawsuit claims. But Beecham claims she continued to receive threats from coworkers who called her a snitch 4 days after the party. She claims someone smashed the window of her car. When she reported the threats, she claims Taco Bell and the franchise owner offered to transfer her. Beecham resigned and is suing Taco Bell and Alvarado Restaurant Group for alleged discrimination, sexual harassment, retaliation, and failure to investigate. All right, I mentioned this next one earlier in the episode. A Nebraska funeral worker was arrested and immediately fired from his job after being accused of tampering with a dead man's sex doll. According to court documents, police officers with the Serpy County Sheriff's Office were called to an apartment building in Papillon near Omaha after a man died of natural causes. Photos of the scene were taken by the coroner. The man's family was notified of his death, and mortuary service company Mid-America First Call was contacted to collect the body from a bed and take it to the morgue. According to the court records, beside the body was a sex doll described as a very real life-size version of an adult female. All right, wouldn't it be fucked up if he was fucking the sex doll and had a heart attack? I hate to say that, but it's kind of crazy that they found his dead body next to the doll. 2 employees of Mid-America First Call made comments about the doll before the body was removed from the unit. Authorities alleged one of the 2 coworkers came back to the building later that day and asked to collect the sex doll on behalf of the police so that it could be swabbed for a biopsy. The building's manager refused to allow the worker back inside the apartment. Police were then called about the odd requests by the body transporter after the man threatened to get a search warrant. The manager told me that she feared he was going to return to the complex, break in, and steal the doll, the investigator wrote in the court document. Despite being refused entry to remove the doll, the man was already inside the unit with the door locked and his pants disheveled, according to the arrest affidavit. Investigators returned to the unit and found the scene was disturbed. The doll appeared to have been altered near the thigh area, and a box that was in the closet was found on the bedside. The court document stated something had rubbed her inner thighs, and the doll was sticky to touch.
Oh, you nasty.
It was taken away for DNA analysis. Ryan Smith, 41, was arrested and charged with burglary, criminal trespassing, and tampering with physical evidence. Justin Dalton, the owner of Mid-America First Call, said he was made aware of the man's arrest hours later. He was not on the clock when the incident occurred, but he was immediately terminated following the arrest. Okay, this one is from the state I reside in. A Yamhill County Sheriff's Office deputy has been charged with 12 misdemeanor counts related to exposing his genitals and performing sexual acts in public, according to court documents.
A Yamhill County Sheriff's deputy identified as David Mills in court documents is now facing several charges, accused of official misconduct and public indecency. The accusations are alarming, with some allegedly happening while the deputy was on duty. Court documents say Mills carried out several sexually explicit acts and also took images exposing himself in his deputy uniform, allegedly in public places, the sheriff's office, and in his patrol car, then posted videos and photos of it online.
So from an article I read, it said he posted it online for financial benefit. I'm guessing he posted it to OnlyFans. I'm not sure why he chose to wear his uniform, but I believe he might have been jacking off for justice.
The Yamhill County Sheriff's Office states it became aware of the online content after receiving a complaint from a community member. They say the deputy was placed on leave pending an investigation. The Washington County Sheriff's Office was brought in to conduct a criminal investigation, which they say was completed earlier this month. The investigation was reviewed by the Benton County DA's office, and charges were filed in Yamhill County Circuit Court on Thursday. In a statement, Benton County DA John Haroldson said in part, quote, "We understand the community has a high level of expectation for professionalism for those who work in public safety. When there is any breach in that professionalism, we take that very seriously." The Yamhill County Sheriff's Office says there will now be an internal affairs investigation to determine if office or county policies were violated. The Sheriff's Office ended their statement by saying, quote, "As law enforcement professionals, we understand it is our responsibility to live up to the standards and expectations placed upon us." Reporting in Yamhill County, Chandler Watkins, Fox 12 Oregon.
Next up, Operation Naughty List. Clements High School principal arrested in undercover prostitution sting.
Good evening, I'm Daniela Guzman. That Fort Bend County High School principal is now out of jail after being caught in an alleged prostitution sting. Police arrested 43-year-old Brian Schillenberg during an operation at a Missouri City hotel last night. KPRC2's Bryce Newberry joins us live from the Fort Bend County Jail with the very latest on this case. Bryce?
Daniela and Keith, that high school principal spent nearly 24 hours here in the jail after allegedly offering to pay for sex. He did bond out just in the last couple hours tonight and did not have much to say.
Mr. Schillenberg, walking out of jail after posting bond. Do you have a message for the community that trusted and looked up to you?
I don't know.
43-year-old James Brian Schillenberg hurried away from our cameras. Is there anything you'd like to say about your side of the story, sir?
Hell no. No, no, no. Yeah, no.
The Clements High School principal busted in Operation Naughty List. According to court documents, an undercover officer posted prostitution ads online. Then Schillenberg allegedly showed up to a Missouri City hotel Monday night.
This took place at the Holiday Inn Express, by the way. I feel like this seems to be, a popular meetup place for sex in the news stories I share. There's always a Holiday Inn Express involved. I don't know why.
And inside a room, agreed to engage in intercourse and oral sex for $90. Schillingberg has been principal at Clements since last July, and before that at James Bowie Middle School. According to his bio, he's been in public education for 23 years and previously worked at Spring Branch ISD. Bend ISD acknowledging his arrest and telling KPRC2 in a statement, "We are committed to ensuring there is no disruption to instruction and a smooth administrative transition."
Look, I hate to say this, but it's such a reality in our society. At least he wasn't trying to have sex with underage students. We see that scenario way too often, which is kind of sad. All right, I saved this one for last. It's coming from our great state of Florida.
Oh, man, that's Florida right there. Yeah, dang right.
A Florida man is accused of choking his girlfriend with a sex toy after she mocked him for erectile dysfunction and said he needed Viagra, police stated. According to the Pinellas County Sheriff's Department, Stephen Norden, 38, and his girlfriend were arguing about shortcomings in their relationship around 1:20 a.m. on New Year's Eve when he became upset and grabbed a pink dildo from the bedroom closet and shoved it into the 37-year-old victim's mouth while holding the back of her head. What a way to bring in the new year. The woman also told the police that Norden punched her in the left eye when she tried to push him away. Norden told police that he did not recall forcing the sex toy into the woman's mouth.
The fact is that I don't remember.
But did claim she punched him in the right eye during the fight. Norden was charged with domestic battery and was booked into the county jail. Okay, that was it for In the Media. I want to go ahead and move on. I have some listener feedback from the end of last year that I want to respond to and go over. Let's start with the episode Dinner and a Strip Club. The episode's question was, what's a gender stereotype you think you've learned from society and how have you internalized it? I did receive one answer for this question. Amber says, being a woman, I learned from society to accommodate others. I internalized this by putting people before myself, making sure I appear polite, nice, and never aggressive. I definitely think Amber's answer is common, although it's gotten a little better now. Society does teach women these kinds of behaviors early on. And when I think about this question, when it comes to men, probably the most common gender stereotype that pops into my head is society teaching men starting off when they're boys to suppress their emotions, which can be internalized as crying is a weakness or that it's bad to appear sensitive to any degree. Okay, I also have a couple of comments on this episode. Of course, Danielle from Oakland is commenting as always, and she says, thank you for bringing up the disdain in society for the way women rappers dress and the hypocrisy of them choosing to dress sexy or half naked, and if it bothered people versus people being more accepting when male rappers objectify women. Yeah, again, I think those views stem from fucking patriarchy and misogyny within our society. It's caused this negative outlook on women who are either in very much control of their sexuality or women who dress in form-fitting or less clothes, who aren't attached to a man, who aren't attached to a dick, who are very outspoken about sex, and especially if a woman is all of those things combined. Okay, next, Drew says, I checked out the show Naked Attraction that you mentioned. I didn't realize you were serious that they didn't blur any of the body parts out. After getting over the initial shock, it was an interesting show. I watched a few episodes so far. Different people are attracted to different body parts. Some body parts I didn't expect anyone to care about. Yeah, I'm glad you tried it. I want to say I watched an episode where someone was really attracted to how a person stood and the formation of their legs. But I thought that one was interesting. Definitely different for sure. Last comment for this, and then I'll move on to feedback for the next episode. Theo, who is in London, says, I love your podcast. Love this episode. Thank you for opening my mind to different perspectives on many sex topics. I listen to many podcasts and I appreciate how genuine you come off. Thanks for being yourself. Thank you, Theo. That's sweet and it means a lot. You know, I am never sure how I come across, but something I told myself is that within my podcast, I am going to, stay true to who I am, that I'm not going to pretend to be some character or to be a person that I think will appeal to the majority of people. I think that's easy to do. I don't want to mimic other sex-related podcasts that are out there either. I try to stay, confident that who I am will attract the type of listeners I'm supposed to. I think we live in an era where people allow the amount of attention they receive. It can be good or bad, but they allow that attention to outweigh a lot of other important things. And for me personally, I want my podcast to receive attention that aligns with what I represent. But thank you. I appreciate that comment. It was so nice. The next episode I have feedback for is titled Ho Ho Ho. I definitely wasn't talking about ho ho ho's from Santa Claus. But in this episode, I talked about my friend Mike and how he could not explain to me what it meant to break someone's back when referring to sex. So the question for that episode was, can you use blowing someone's back out in a detailed sentence for me? I received several responses to this, so I'll just kind of read through those, and I am shaking my fucking head at some of the examples. I blew her back out after we had sex and she could no longer walk. We had wild sex, which resulted in me getting my back blown out. He said he would blow my back out, and I said, no, thank you. I have stuff to do in the morning. I blew her back out and she could not sit up straight. That guy has a reputation for blowing backs out, and I better stretch before I try him. I blew her back out and she could barely get out of bed. The last time I had my back blown out, I got a UTI because I couldn't get up to pee afterwards. I blew her back out when we fucked, and she asked if I had an ibuprofen afterwards. And the last one, I blew her back out so many times, people started calling her the Hunchback of Notre Dame. All right. Thank you to all who answered that question. I am really speechless from those responses. Okay. Comments for the Ho 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 episode. In this episode, I mentioned I have a lot of sex toys. Omar wants to know if it's weird using sex toys with different partners, or how does that work? Okay, Omar, first off, I don't use my sex toys in my, collection with different people. The sex toys in my collection are for me to use alone. If I am seeing someone, or if I happen to be in a relationship where we incorporate sex toys, I will go out and buy sex toys to use for that person or use with that person. If we stop seeing each other, or let's say the relationship ends, I throw those sex toys away. For me, I don't want any sex ghost of boyfriend or girlfriend's past lingering to use with someone else, nor do I want to use a vibrator I used with an ex when I am having my special masturbation time to myself after we are no longer together. I don't know. That's just me, though. Okay, Danielle from Oakland says, I heard about the woman who lit herself and her Tinder date on fire before I listened to this episode. I didn't know the backstory until I heard it on your podcast. What a crazy story. Yeah, it was. And also, this was one of those sex stories that involved a Holiday Inn Express. I'm going to say it now. Meeting up at a Holiday Inn Express for sex is cursed. Don't do it. I warned you. Book something else. There should be a public service announcement about Holiday Inn Express for sex, for real. Okay, the last episode I had for 2023 was called Until It Happens to You. I talked about my experience with a sexual assault and domestic violence. I'll share with you that I tried to record that episode several times and had to stop. So when I finally got it all out, I didn't care about some of the sound quality or some of the editing. I was just, happy to get it out and get it done. A lot of those things I shared in that episode, I have not repeated. I have not said before until I did that recording. It was a lot reliving it, but, I feel like it was important to me to be someone who has a podcast about sex and sexuality, to share those things and to give insight, to give further perspective. And I really appreciate all and any feedback I get for any of my episodes, but the feedback for that one means so much to me. Also, the people that sent me beautiful messages, thank you. I did receive a lot of feedback for the episode, and I think I'll do a follow-up episode to address those comments. Maybe I'll do a mini episode, but I'm still trying to figure out how I want to do that. But again, thank you to everyone who took that time to listen to it and who took the time to reach out. Much love. I appreciate it so much. All right, I have some random questions I want to respond to. After that, I'll go ahead and get out of here. I feel like I've talked way too much, long enough on this episode. But first, I have a question from Marcus who says, "What up from Anaheim, California? I like the mix of sex, humor, nerd talk on your podcast. I don't have a sex question at this time, but I want to know what you currently watch. I like how you talk about shows and movies." Let me think, because I'm always into so much shit. I watch a variety of TV shows and movies. Let's see. I'm almost done with the first season of Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. It's on Apple TV. It's set many years after the attack on San Francisco in the last Godzilla movie, I believe. But it follows these two siblings who find out that their father worked for the organization Monarch. So that's the organization that studies monsters like Godzilla. It has Kiersey Clemons in it, who I absolutely love. Also, Kurt Russell, whose character is out of his fucking mind, but in a good way. What else? I'm also watching Sweet Home. So the second season was added to Netflix not too long ago, but it's a South Korean series. I watch it with the English voiceovers, and it follows a group of tenants in an apartment complex who are basically dealing with essentially a apocalypse, but instead of, those usual zombie apocalypses, the virus makes people turn into monsters, and the virus also feeds on fear. I think it's a pretty dope concept. It's a little different. And I just got done with this other series on Netflix. It's called Baby. It's a Italian series. I also watched it with English voiceovers. It takes place in Rome. It follows two high school seniors who are caught up in escorting, I guess the underworld of escorting. A lot of sex, a lot of drugs, but the highlight for me is the music. I actually went on Spotify and downloaded the series playlists for all 3 seasons, and it's such a vibe. I love all kinds of music from all over the world, so the playlist has a little bit of everything, and I've been playing it in the background while I'm working at home. I'm sure there are more shows or movies I could tell you about, Those are just a few that popped into my head. I could probably, do a podcast on TV shows and movies, to be honest. All right, a listener that goes by the name of Peaches with an S and a Z at the end emailed me and said, I'm a new listener catching up on previous episodes. Thanks for talking about being bisexual as a woman. I know you said you're not the ambassador for the bis, but you did a nice job breaking down your experience. You can be my bi ambassador any day. Noted, and thank you, Peaches. I really do hope that episode I did dedicated to that topic helped someone out there understand bisexuality more. I deal with, and I know many bisexual people deal with very crazy misconceptions when it comes to being bisexual. But yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, last random question, and then I'll wrap shit up. Audra says, thank you for being open about your family dynamics in past episodes. I hope we get to hear more about that. I consider myself the black sheep of my family, and I know sometimes it's hard going through the world without that part in your life. Also, did you ever reach out to the brother you found out you had? It's a part of what makes me who I am today, being disconnected from family, not having those close relationships, losing parents young. It's molded me in different ways for sure, good and bad. I'm kind of at a place where I don't have, I guess, a feeling of loneliness. I'm kind of at peace, like it is what it is. The only thing I'll say is I will always have hope for a real relationship with my siblings. And these are siblings from my biological mother. We don't have the same dad. But I'm not a person that does that half sibling shit. They are my brothers, they are my sisters, and the door is always open to reconnect with them. And to answer your question about the brother my father had before me that I didn't know about, the brother in New York, I have not reached out to him yet. I thought about it and I realized I'm not ready in this moment, but I hope to get there. Okay, loves, that's a wrap. If you fucked with this episode, please be kind and leave a 5-star review. If you have feedback, my contact info is in the episode details. Thank you for listening. Bye, loves.